welcome to our Study Melbourne Career Catalyst webinar, all about talking all things volunteering and how it can boost your career. So all about gaining some hands-on experience to boost your resume, grow your network, and get some real-world experience, which I know is quite challenging to get at times, and depending on what you're wanting to do, it's a great way to get some extra experience, especially with the summer period coming up. And there's lots of different ways that you can volunteer. So we'll jump into all of those opportunities now. So I would like to firstly acknowledge country. So I begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm presenting from today and pay my respects to their elders past and present and emerging. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait peoples here on this webinar. Oops. So firstly, my name is Ellen. I have to send my apologies from the lovely Ayushi, who is our Study Melbourne ambassador. She was scheduled to host today's webinar, but unfortunately is not feeling her best. So I am the events and partnerships manager at Intern Match, and you might see our logo posted across the Study Melbourne Career Catalyst program. We're the delivery partner for the program itself, and we're a global EdTech platform that helps students like yourselves find some real world experience. So we work with companies to provide internships to you and work with universities both here in Australia and abroad. So we're really excited to be as a delivery partner for this program to give you lots of opportunities here while you're here in Victoria. So please feel free to connect with me, or you might see me around at the events and webinars that we run throughout the years. So we'll jump into the purpose of this webinar before I introduce our special guests. This session highlights how volunteering and community engagement can boost your professional and your personal growth. We'll explore the volunteer opportunities and community initiatives that can help you develop transferable skills or soft skills such as leadership, communication, and problem solving. Volunteer not only enhances your resume, but also expands your network and provides really valuable hands-on experience. So whether you're looking for opportunities to give back, to gain experience, or improve your employability overall, this session will hopefully inspire you to make the most of community involvement. So I'd like to jump into the exciting part of the webinar. So we have an amazing guest speaker joining us today. I'd like to welcome Celia Tran. Celia, if you wouldn't mind giving us a short introduction about yourself, please, that would be great.
Sure. Thank you so much, Alan. And welcome everyone. I'm just joining from Wurundjeri country, and I really wanted to pay my acknowledgement to the traditional country where I'm dialing in from, City of Melbourne as well. So a bit about me. I'm currently working as the manager for community engagement and communications at the Scanlon Institute. So we're a research institute, but my background has been not as simple as going straight to the workforce. So very, very passionate about volunteering and very keen to share with you how that's really shaped who I am and where I've landed today. So I ended up studying at RMIT University. I did my undergrad in social sciences, and then I worked a bit, went back to do a master's in international community development, and through both opportunities, I've actually volunteered through the universities as well. So I can share a little bit about that later and the opportunities offered from your universities. But my volunteering started quite young, so I was in high school when I started. That was joining a youth advisory committee for my local council. But it's pretty much about me now, and I'm very happy to share any advice and tips. But that's me in short, Alan.
Thank you, Celia. Amazing. Thank you so much again for providing these insights to students and also allowing some time today to have a chat and answer their questions. And like you said, you've been involved with lots of organizations, and it's just great to even talk about where you started with universities as well.
Mhm.
And I'm hopefully a lot of you that are joining today can relate to the experiences that Celia has. It's very inspiring to hear of, I guess, the scope of different organizations, initiatives that you've been a part of. For someone like myself, I haven't, I've volunteered, like it's done a few once off, I guess, volunteering opportunities, which
Hmm.
helping put up the Christmas trees at the Royal Children's Hospital or tin rattling for the poppies on Anzac Day. Um,
Hmm.
but that's about I guess, the scope of my volunteering. And now I'm looking to go into something that's a bit more regular. And it's just really exciting to hear how it can impact your career today. So let's get into it. If you'd like to connect with Celia, welcome to on LinkedIn. So let's talk about leveraging your volunteering for your career growth. So, as we all know, volunteering offers more than just giving back to the community. It can also really significantly boost your career. So, let's dive into how volunteering can help you grow your transferable skills, which are highly valued by all employers. So, Celia, you've been a board director at Western Chances and have worked with various community initiatives like the Vietnamese Australian Professional Network. Can you tell us how these volunteer experiences have helped you build transferable skills that have contributed to your professional career?
Yeah, great question, Alan. I'll probably take you back to when I volunteered in university. It's probably the most relatable to all of you online. So I joined as a O Week volunteer. So my job was to show people around an O Week, and I'm sure you would have seen some call outs for that. Highly recommend. Really fun, really great and rewarding experience. At the end of that, I got a certificate for my contributions, but I also signed up for, and I'm not sure if RMIT still offers it, but most universities offers a sort of a mates mentoring program of some sort where you get to sign up to be a mentor or sign up to partner with a student, another student to that's new. So if you've been here, your second, third year university student, you'll be partnered with a first year student and show them around, teach them the ropes of uni. And that was really rewarding as well. And so, looking back, those opportunities, although, small in scale in the world of things, but I think don't underestimate them because they show that you are taking initiative through your university. You get a certificate at the end of it. You pop it on your resume. So I was looking for casual work at the time. So, obviously most of you are students. So you're probably, whether you're looking for a casual work, all those little opportunities where you can, and they're low commitment. So they're often sort of within one semester or a one term of some sort. But moving on from university landscape, I've always had a very strong passion in working with young people, but also refugee and migrant communities. So that's in sort of my background and my personal experience coming from a refugee family. So I put myself out there for volunteering for food drives and, uh, homework clubs and supported young people. I was great at particular subjects, so I supported other students going through VCE. Things like that, I think have been really amazing for building my personal skills, my communication skills, my proactive skills, things that school doesn't teach you, and things that, as Ellen said, soft skills, emotional intelligence is incredibly important skill to have in this day of work. What really sets you apart when you put yourself out for opportunities like this down the line, many of you may have already started volunteering or looking to. It pays off down the line, and I can tell you why in a bit, but it's these little skills and the interactions with people that you have that you take with you to your next role and the next one after and throughout your whole life. So I think learning never stops, but learning outside of the classroom is probably extremely rewarding, if not as rewarding as learning in the classroom. So I
Yeah.
think, yeah, so I don't, not a day I don't forget sort of the value of volunteering since my university days, even though, I'm doing a lot more larger scale things in the scheme of things, but they were just as fun and important.
Amazing. Oh, thank you so much. Well, yeah, like you said, it can be something that is just like it can work into your schedule as well. So if you've got some time coming up over summer, you're not going home,
Mhm.
or you don't have big trips planned, make sure that you look into what's happening around you to build those transferable skills. Pretty much like you said, you don't learn them at university or during school. You learn them in, I guess, the real world. Um,
Mhm.
and employers highly regard those sort of skills
Yeah.
before you're applying for a job. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Thanks, Celia. We'll jump into the next, I guess, topic. Um, Building a network through community engagement. Obviously, networking is a huge tool to grow your your job prospects and grow your career opportunities. So, community engagement and volunteering can provide those invaluable
Mm.
network opportunities by getting involved in local causes, university, whatever, community projects. You can meet professionals, mentors, and peers. And like Celia just mentioned, it might be someone younger than you or I guess newer than you. And that then provides you some mentoring, volunteering experience. You can really collaborate and share similar interests and values with others. And these connections often lead to opportunities and career prospects. So even if that just means you've connected on LinkedIn, it could be a couple of years down the track, or it could be an email in a few months. Let's get into discussing how volunteering can serve as a gateway to expand your professional network and how these relationships can support you both personally and professionally. So, Celia, your involvement with organizations such as Multi-Faith, Multicultural Youth Network and Harmony Alliance show a strong commitment to community engagement. How has your volunteer work helped you build a network of valuable connections? And how have these connections benefited your career?
Absolutely. I was a very shy kid, believe it or not, growing up. So I think I've always challenged myself to put myself out there to meet new people because you never know who you'll meet and you never know who they will end up being to you down the line. Go in with an open mind that you'll meet all sorts of people. And the beauty of studying in Melbourne is we're so multicultural. We have so many incredible cultural diversity. You meet people from all walks of life that can play a role. And I have stories of, an example here in the photo. We have Grace I met from WA, and Z from Queensland, and they were part of the Multicultural Youth Network, which is a national sort of alliance of young people who are very passionate about migrant refugee young people and the issues. And we come together every year to host a conference, and it was a part of all volunteering, but they are lifelong friends now. And through my connections with them, I now have connections interstate, and that was really important for me now in my day-to-day job. If I have, something coming up in Queensland, I give Z a call. So never underestimate who you meet because they can become your lifelong friend. But also, as Alan mentioned, mentor. I've met so many incredible mentors. I think there's something really special about volunteering and the volunteering community. Like you are giving your time. So the people who are receiving on the receiving end, or the organization hosting you, or the people that you're surrounded with or volunteering with all know that. So I think there's certain layers that unlike the workplace, you might take a little bit longer to get to know people. You all have a sort of common ground that you meet with, and I think that automatically builds a really strong foundation. And you find out, times when I've reached out to people who I've connected once or twice on LinkedIn through volunteering. And I said, "Hey, remember me from this thing?" They're like, "Yeah, of course I remember you. That's how good was that, event that we helped out on?" And there's that shared connection. And through there, you can go, "Hey, what, I heard you work for Google. Can you tell me about that?" It's such a wonderful way to meet different and diverse people outside of your, maybe your course or the study of the field, because yes, there's strength in networks. And they say in Australia and probably internationally, like 80% of jobs are through word of mouth. It's not through online. Like you don't apply
Yeah.
through online, it's referral. So the power of knowing people is incredibly important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a kind of a crazy fact, isn't it? Like a crazy statistic to know that.
Yeah,
But definitely, like you said, you might even like we haven't really touched on that, but it's like you kind of gain a friendship as well from
absolutely.
volunteering. So, what sort of requirements were there for your volunteering, like in terms of hours?
Mhm.
Were you doing once a week or what's
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a great question. It really varies, and that this is the beauty of volunteering work. That is, you can find something that suits you, But also be mindful that there's an expectation of commitment. And I think I really emphasize this because I've been on I've been a volunteer and I've also managed lots of volunteers. And some of the most trickiest part at the moment, for example, I'm managing 300 volunteers in a program is commitment and showing up. So I think what if you can't, for example, commit to certain hours, have a think about maybe it's not quite for you, or communicate, talk to them and say, look, I'm not sure about my timetable yet, but I can commit to now. Can I tell you, in 2 months? You'll be so surprised. Most people are very supportive. Most people will say, yep, we understand the volunteering nature.
Yeah.
I think communication is extremely important, and there's so many different ways around it. And you're volunteering, so there's no absolute expectations that you go out of your way and people are very conscious that there are a lot of barriers sometimes, and we can talk about it a little bit later, but sometimes barriers to participating in volunteering opportunities. So don't be afraid to ask questions, but there's so many different kinds of volunteering. One day, full day, whole week, conference wise, you've got sporting sporting events and festivals that run week long, and there's an expectation of certain hour commitments. A lot of them will have a job description, and I
Yeah.
think that's important that you get the job description because that is sort of where you can then go and say, I've done this, 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 and use that as an outcome for your next role that you're applying for, or put it on your resume. So don't be afraid to ask for a position description, the required hours, and talk about, right at the beginning about your hours and how much you can commit, and talk to them.
That's a good point about the position description. It's something that you can then take dot points from to put on your resume or your LinkedIn. So you actually
Yeah,
know what your responsibilities were.
yeah.
Yeah.
I should also mention there's formal and informal volunteering.
Mhm.
Often a lot of informal volunteering example of that is you might be connected to a cultural group like the Filipino local church, and you run a fundraising drive. It's very sort of ad hoc, and there's no position description. You rock up, you do rattle cans for a particular cause
Yep.
over Easter. That's more informal in the world of volunteering, and then more formal is there's actual position descriptions and
Mhm.
hours, and sometimes there's reimbursement to it. There's pros and cons with both, but just be mindful sort of that, when you're volunteering for your local church or your local soccer club, that there might not be, but there's no harm in absolutely asking because you'll find that the people recruiting would be more than happy to be a reference for you, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, and that's another point is having that reference point or at least an organization that is here in Melbourne that I guess boosts your Australian experience. If you don't have any Australian experience and you just want to kind of get a foot in the door, volunteering is a great
Hmm.
start. And it might be in
Yeah,
line, like you said before, it might be in line with your course or your studies, but it also might be in line with your passions and
your
interests
passion.
or something like to do with your culture or your religion or anything like that. There's so many opportunities.
Absolutely.
The last slide of this webinar will have lots of resources, which we'll, of course, share with you all. Lots of links to jump onto to have a look at opportunities coming up. Like I mentioned, it is obviously the summer break is coming up. There's lots of sport happening in Melbourne, lots of major events happening in Melbourne. But then there's also obviously groups and
Mm.
networks that you can jump into. So yeah, thank you so much. Let's keep moving forward. So we'll talk about the value of volunteering for students. So this is a little example photo of the Melbourne International Film Festival, which is a big event in Melbourne. We've got things like the comedy festival, food festivals. There's lots of fun events happening. And they're always looking for, like we were talking about, probably more, it might be a mix of formal and informal volunteers. They might have a breakdown of what you'll actually be doing. They'll go through the process of having the interview stage and selecting the right people for those volunteer roles. But then there might just be the one-off opportunity to help at a local farmers market in your area or something like that. So there's a huge range of opportunities out there. So to go into this topic, so we know that volunteering can be an excellent way to gain that practical experience and develop the skills that we've talked about already. And it can also help you explore different career paths. So you might be studying, for example, accounting, and you do some voluntary work at for example, a sporting club. Obviously, they need accounting, they
Hmm.
need a finance team. So you might realize that, wait, I can put my passions and my career into one and maybe look at opportunities to work with this organization. And it can also align with, yeah, personal passions and academic studies. So we'll chat about the unique advantages that volunteering can offer to you as students, such as enhancing your resume, learning new skills, and contributing to your personal growth, which is really important. Um, and then we'll also discuss how volunteering can provide insight into industries and professions that you may find tricky to actually access as a student. So, Celia, as a mentor for at-risk students at Kensington Community High School and through your work with, is it V4U Day?
Yes, Speak for You Day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
V4U Day at Victoria University. You've seen the benefits of volunteering for firsthand. What sort of advice could you give to students who are starting their careers about how to approach volunteering as a new way to enhance their resume and gain this practical experience?
Absolutely. Look, I think the biggest barrier I often find when I mentor young people is the self-doubt. It usually starts with you going, I don't think I'm like worth that job, or I don't think I offer enough. So overcoming sort of some of that, what we call imposter syndrome. It's okay. You're a volunteer. You're a student. No one expects you to be, coming up with a grand strategy of some sort. Like there's expectations set often for volunteers at a student level. So most of the time, they want you to learn on the job. And I
Mm,
think that's really important for you to remember going in with that mindset of, I'm here to learn, I'm here to give as well. Absolutely. Time is valuable. And time is money for them. But also at the same time, I can guarantee you that they want to support you in your learning as a
yeah.
student, especially as an international student. There's so much value in, being connected with a local organization there. So I think just as Ellen said, find something that might align with your passion, whether it's animals or environment, festivals, clubs, sports. There's like Melbourne is the place to be when it
Yeah.
comes to volunteering. Like there's so many amazing opportunities, and there's a slide at the end with some of the search engines that you can quickly go and find those opportunities. But just put yourself out there. I think that's always the first step is saying, yep, I've got my resume. It doesn't have to be complicated. Just your name, don't even put your address. Don't even put any, identifiable information. Share a bit about, why you want to apply for the role. I think that's important around some of the commitment and the drive. I think people are very interested to know why you've chosen that super van or applying for the sporting club. There's just so many different opportunities. So yeah, put yourself out there where you can. So many resources to help you, whether it's through Allen, Intern Match, Study Melbourne, Volunteering Australia, Volunteering Victoria. Those are the peak organisations. Like Australia really values volunteers. So I hope you realise that, entering a volunteer role is as valuable as, getting a job.
Mhm.
And I think to Alan's point before, anyone can get a degree these days. Is what sets you apart from in the workforce and wanting to work in Australia in particular is having that local experience. So yeah, just go for it. Don't be afraid. I know it's scary, but tons of support out there for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, if you're a bit more introvert or you find it difficult to grow your network
Hmm.
here, socialize here in Melbourne,
Yep.
it's a great way to like literally you're pictured with probably a new friend on the day.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and like you mentioned earlier in the webinar, pe most people that you stay in
Hmm.
contact with, or at least you might check in with every few years and be like,
Yeah.
comes up that links the two of you together, that's really cool. And then is as part of this program, just so you all know, we also offer a 30-minute career like help session. So if you do end up getting some volunteer experience and you just want to make sure it's on your resume, on your LinkedIn, looking really nice and professional, we can jump on and have a 30-minute call. It's all free and open to all students as part of the Study Melbourne program.
Mm.
And you might have experience back home as well, but if you can also get some experience here, obviously that's what we're here for today. Um, so in terms of adding it to a resume, Celia, do
Yep.
you usually add or in the past, have you added all of your volunteer experience, or do you just try and pick out something that might be relevant to the job that you're going for?
Good question. I think it depends on where you are at with the volunteering journey. Like if you're really early days and you've only got one or two, absolutely pop it in there. But more than just popping in there, and I support a lot of young people with their resume and applying for jobs, and they're fresh out of uni as well, and they've got one or two volunteering opportunities. They don't put it on, and I say why.
Mm.
And I tell them put anything and everything on there if it's relevant, but
Yeah,
also be clear about and sometimes when you're applying for a job, for example, um, going back to the first question around transferable skills, like don't undersell the experience that you've had at
yeah,
the International Cricket World Cup
yeah,
event where you were a welcome desk person handing out particular, whatever it
yeah,
is. That's communication skills, that's presentation skills, that's proactive skill, teamwork. Like when I walk it through with young people about what did they do, what was their role, like, oh yeah, I just handed out cards and I said hello to people, and I'm like, who did you meet?
yeah,
Like, did you get a briefing? Did you do training? And then you realize that when I step it through with them, they've actually gained so many skills. And when they write that down on their resume, they find that they're getting so much more hits in terms of recruitment opportunities.
yeah,
And those keywords are what people are looking for when it comes to recruiters as well. Sometimes recruiters go and type in keywords like teamwork or, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
initiative, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And, it's all technology these days. They do a massive screening of hundreds of applications. If you have that in your resume, you're guarantee you're one up with someone who doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely. It actually, every time I do one of the career sessions and I open a resume and they either haven't listed volunteering or they've listed what they've done, but dot points, and the dot points aren't really like relevant to what they're applying for. So I kind of
Yes,
always say just try and focus on what you're actually telling the other person.
absolutely.
Do they want to know that you helped hand out coffees or that you worked in a team of three and you had to
Yep.
manage 20,000, whatever it was on
Yep.
the day? So try and, yeah, make sure that the skills that you
Mm.
learn, you might, and like you said, you might just think, oh, I just handed out flyers or I just collected money. But you allocated time out of your day to go and get this experience. So think
Hmm.
about what the skills are that you actually gained and whether it's a
Hmm.
customer service or whatever it might be. It's really, yeah, very helpful.
Yeah.
And I'll just go back to make sure that so we talked about enhancing your resume, learning those new skills, and then just contributing to your personal growth, which is
Mm.
if you're a lifelong learner, like you're going to continually grow as a person. Um,
Hmm.
and then in terms of the industries and professions, is there like a volunteering experience that you've had, Celia, that was like in line with what you were, I guess, studying or
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I volunteered for the Asylum Seeker Resource Centre. That was in during my master's. I actually got offered a casual job off that.
yeah,
So that was a classic example of I did a good job and they
yeah,
needed someone. Of course, they're going to hire someone who's already in the job or doing something is familiar with. So there's so many stories, and that's just one story. I've Centre for Multicultural Youth. I volunteered with them, got a
yeah,
paid opportunities through them too. So I think getting a foot in the door
yeah,
is almost a recruitment process in itself, a
yeah,
screening process for managers and people who are hiring. They will often go to the pool of volunteers as a first basis. So, and I think that was my sort of first relevant job experience working at the Asylum Seeker Resource Centre. I ended up doing casual full time as a youth officer there, and then sort of transitioned to other not-for-profit jobs. But that was sort of my first full-time paid gig through volunteering. And I think I think industry-wise, the people that you meet through that then become your reference, which
yeah,
is really important to have a local reference. Most jobs that you apply for, they need to call at least two to check, just brief questions about who are they? Would you recommend them for the job? Um, it's a way to filter out sort of the best candidates. So Local references are really important, and yeah, you often stay in touch, and then you bump into people. If you industry is very small sometimes in Australia, so yeah, that's that. I did want to share a tip around getting a free working for children's check
Mhm.
if you're a volunteer. There's a certificate, or sorry, what do you call it?
Maybe.
Yeah, certification of some sort
Yeah,
where
yeah,
you can apply as a volunteer working for Children's Trek. That's a really great free recognition that you can have on your resume. It shows that you've gone above and beyond to
yeah.
go and apply for it. It's free. So definitely check it out if you want. And that is also helps if you work with children as part of your volunteering.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They might kind of have an event that they go, oh, we actually need everyone to have working with children. If you've already ticking that box, you're kind of straight,
Hmm.
I guess, hopefully straight through. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, and like you said before, I find volunteering, and I've managed as an events manager, I've managed like small teams of volunteers that come along just for the day or a couple of different occasions. But
Hmm.
if they show like initiative,
Yep.
they understand that these flyers over here, they all need to be distributed. I don't need to ask, or like they can ask questions.
Hmm.
If I say
Hmm.
I just want them all gone by the end of the day, they go,
Hmm.
all right, I'm going to take the initiative. I'm going to make sure that I give out four to each of these people here. We just go and spread them out. Everything's gone. So if you can take initiative, if you can like be really responsible and responsive,
Mm.
I
Proactive.
yeah,
Mm.
proactive. It's those are huge skills to have. And like you said, the a manager might be walking past and noticing that you're bringing the team together or you're debriefing,
Mm.
or whatever it is. And it's almost like a trial for a job sometimes.
It
Like
is. Yep.
hiring, definitely
Yep.
try to be a volunteer.
Yep.
It's almost like doing an internship, but it's like usually one or two occasions.
Hmm.
Mm. So yeah, it's so helpful for international students. So please make sure you do try and look out for something in the next couple of weeks or months. Um,
Mm.
we'll get moving ahead onto the next really important topic. So, overcoming some challenges in community service. So, whilst we know that volunteering can be incredibly rewarding, it can come with its own set of challenges, such as balancing time and time commitments, like we mentioned before, or working with diverse teams, or sometimes working in difficult situations. So, we'll cover now some common obstacles faced in community service and provide some strategies for overcoming them. And we'll also touch on how facing over and overcoming these challenges can help volunteers grow
Mm.
personally and professionally. And you never know, it might be in an interview you're asked, tell us about a time that you problem solved, and you can actually use your volunteer experience or something like that as an example. Um, so, Celia, throughout your years of volunteering in diverse roles, from the Victorian Volunteer Strategy Task Force to your work with, is it Mayan Australia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine. Mm.
What has been one significant challenge you've encountered in your community service work, and how did you overcome it? And also, how did it impact the communities that you worked with?
Absolutely. Great question. Hard to nail down one, but without repeating myself, I think as a student, balancing your paid work opportunities, your studies, your family commitments, or whatever it is, your friendship, I think being realistic about how much time you can give, um, and then not overstretching yourself sometimes. And it's okay to go in with certain expectations, commit, but if you're finding that you're really stretching yourself or you're really struggling, just know that communicate. Just, share with your supervisor. I'm sorry, there's too many hours. Can I reduce it? If not, thank them there for their time, an opportunity. Don't ghost them, please. I think it's really important that you communicate and totally fine. I have managed so many volunteers who've said to me, I'm really sorry. I've had to go back to, my home country, to care for my family, or life happens and everyone knows that. So I think it's really important that probably young me was struggled with that a little bit more where I felt like, oh, I'm letting people down. I've signed up for this thing and now I'm sick or my mum's sick. But if anything, I tell people, my volunteers, like, you are volunteers. I think it's important that you prioritize your personal life. But tell me I can support you in any way. And are there any barriers that you have around participating as well? Because, I know that sometimes you have to take a train or whatever. It costs us some money sometimes to volunteer. So talk about opportunities for reimbursement. Like it takes me an hour and a half to go to Bendigo for this event. Is there any reimbursement? Can I get paid for my meal? We all know that you were students here, so um, communication. I keep going back to it, but don't be afraid because a lot of times it's you think there's a sort of like a hierarchy of some sort. They're my boss, but look, at the end of the day, they need you just as much as you need them. So don't be afraid to kind of go, these are my boundaries, or this is what I need to succeed in my role and volunteering. I really want to help. But if that's not it, that's not, if the scope or the limitations are too tight and they can't help you, they can't pay for your, V-Line train ticket, it's okay. There's other opportunities. Just say thank you and move on.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good challenge to talk about. And it's like very important to, like you said, just to communicate because some organizations do really rely on the volunteers. So they might have set tasks for the volunteering and they kind of go, great, volunteers will look after that part. I can then
Hmm.
focus on this. So if you just communicate with them, at least they know
Yeah.
they can still potentially provide a reference for you if you've,
Hmm.
volunteered with them before and it's a positive reference because you
Yep.
didn't, you said ghost them. Um, and it's pretty easy to just kind of like for them, sorry, to
Hmm.
understand that yes, life happens. You
Hmm.
already know that you're studying or you've got commitments. They're never going to like chase you and say, why are you not volunteering
Mm.
for us before? You're doing a great thing already. So
Yeah.
just keep up that communication and hopefully you don't have any
Mm.
challenges, but there's definitely, I can imagine lots of challenges whilst
Yeah,
volunteering.
probably to add as well is that, especially as a student, this might be your first real life experience of any sort of work. I remember I didn't know how to use a photocopy machine. Like, someone told me, "Can you go photocopy this?" I'm like, I didn't know, and I was terrified to ask. But like, there's certain things within an office environment or within a workplace environment. How to write an email, like what's
Yeah.
considered appropriate to wear to work, like work attire, like ask. Don't be afraid to ask. Like I hope I asked more in the past. Like I was fortunate enough to have some sisters who were working already and to say, like, is this work appropriate? But if you don't know, it's okay to ask. Like no one's going to laugh or say anything. Like they know you're a student and that you're learning on the go. So ask questions.
Absolutely, definitely. And if you need any further support or if you have any questions about maybe a volunteering opportunity that you're looking at the moment, feel free to connect for one of those 30-minute sessions because we can go through whether it's
Absolutely.
position description or I might potentially have someone in my network that also volunteers there and they can answer any questions that you have. But usually there's a contact person. So if you kind of go, oh, I can do it, but I can only offer an hour or
Hmm.
not 2 hours, they might still be open to, taking you on.
Yep.
Always just get as much, I use your communication skills as much as possible, and you'll actually develop more like your communication skills while doing so. Um, yeah, that's amazing. It's really, really important to talk through
Hmm.
those challenges too. So reach out if you have any questions. And I think we have one more question, and then we'll give some time for questions from any of the students. And like I mentioned at the start, we'll share these slides and the resources that I'll show on the next page after this webinar. But feel free to pop anything in the chat box. Celia, as we've talked about today, you've been involved in a wide range of impactful volunteering work, from advocating for migrant women to supporting young people in Melbourne. Looking back on all of your experiences so far, what do you believe has been the most important lesson that you've learnt? And how has it shaped your career and your personal growth?
Yep. Oh, great question. I think probably with any, and I still learn. I think it's important to make a point that with every volunteering job that I enter, I learn every day, and it's that sort of mindset is something that you should come into this space with. Is that I'm here to learn, I'm here to do my best, but what do I have to lose? So put don't be so hard on yourself. I think sometimes you're just like, oh, I didn't do that job very well, or I wasn't, quite good, or this is too hard. Volunteering is a really wonderful way to try new things, learn, meet people. So put yourself out there. What do you have to lose? And I think don't be afraid to ask questions. Like as I said before, there's so much support for you out there, and we're incredibly lucky in Melbourne to have so many amazing opportunities. So go for it. Be a yes person if you can, and maybe yeah, just put yourself out there.
Yeah, love it. That's a great lesson and great advice for students. So if anyone has any follow-up questions, you want to ask Celia a question about her experiences, any of the organizations that maybe she's already volunteered for that you might be interested in, and they all probably or most of them have some active roles open as well at the moment. Whether or not they're looking for this side of the Christmas break or next year, or you can even, if you know that they do have volunteers sometimes, just reach out to their, like they might have a general email. Like you can say, I understand you don't
Mhm.
have volunteering roles at the moment, but if you do in the future, and then they might kind of save your email and get in touch next year when something pops up. Um,
Mhm.
but even, for example, Study Melbourne actually have a student ambassador program. So that's voluntary based, and we have like 12 ambassadors this year. One of who was going to be hosting this session, but she's probably just so busy with all her volunteering as well and her
Mhm.
study that she's got herself sick. So always make sure that you maintain that balance. But that's another thing that's opening soon. So I think they'll be advertising the ambassadors for next year, the applications for next year soon. So keep an eye out for that. We'll send you all an email when that pops up.
Mhm.
So just another way to get involved with what's happening at Study Melbourne. Um, and here are obviously it's a lot of text, so we'll send this all to you, and there's lots of links to send as well. So here are some platforms that Celia has kindly shared, which include some general volunteering platforms. Obviously, you might be able to find things on LinkedIn and Seek Volunteer as well.
Mhm.
Is there anything there, Celia, that really stands out to you that you think?
Absolutely. I think Volunteer West, I live out in the West, but Volunteer West was a really great platform. It connects you with local opportunities. So I think there's different volunteer, I think there might be even volunteer north, west, east, I'm not sure, but look into that. Ethical jobs is a really cool one too. They really make it clear what your job description is, your requirements are, and it really organizations, at least on ethical jobs, are often the ones who also want to hire down the line. So definitely keep an eye out for those. Centre of Multicultural Youth is a really great organisation if you're looking for a local based youth organisation to be involved in. They're based out in Carlton, but service all across Victoria. They do incredible work from homework clubs to conferences to other volunteering and also training, free training for young people, whether you're local or international. I would just yeah, have a look around, and through university as well. You'll be so surprised. I volunteered through the student union, for example, or I'll go and ask the universities have newsletters, I think, for like opportunities and things like that. So yeah, just have a browse. And a lot of Melbourne always has particular festivals and events that happen every year, and I pop some in there. We've, as Alan mentioned, film festival, fashion week, whatever you're interested in, they're always looking for volunteers. So, yeah.
Absolutely. There's lots coming up. There's lots to happen next year.
Hmm.
Yeah, and like you said, if it's hard to get into the city, there will be lots of organizations near you that need
Yes.
volunteers. Absolutely. There's even things like something I'm an organization called Park Run, and they
Hmm.
literally they manage people coming and meeting for runs and walks around
Hmm.
the parks.
Yep.
They're always looking, and you literally might
Mm.
have a park in your neighborhood that needs
Hmm.
use. So we'll send all of these through.
Yeah.
And
Local councils also, I forgot to
yep,
add it there. Your
yep,
local council. So wherever you live, whether it's in Box Hill or in Flemington,
yep.
you'll find out where your local council is. They always have, clubs and community organizations that you could easily reach out to. Your local neighborhood house is always local. That's a Australian equivalent of, one-stop shop for the community to come and ask questions about whether applying for a job or Centrelink or food vouchers. They're always looking for people, and in particular, more vulnerable cohorts like elderly communities are always looking for support as well. A lot of nursing homes are looking for volunteers where people can come in and have a breakfast with an elderly person and take them for a walk or whatever it is. I think there's just so many different wonderful ways at your local level and
Yeah.
wherever you live.
That's it. That's exactly what I've just applied for and been, I guess, selected for is the elderly rights and advocacy group. And that's just
Hmm.
literally 1 hour a week with a local resident who's elderly and
Yep.
doesn't have anyone to socialize with.
Yeah. Yep.
It's almost as, I guess, as easy as that. But I went
Hmm.
through a couple of interviews just to make sure that it was right
Hmm.
for me, but also to understand, the different challenges that role might face. So
Yeah.
please reach out if you have any questions. Hopefully, let me just check. But hopefully, I've got the chat box open. But if you do have any questions, feel free to respond to the email that comes through after this webinar, and we'll send you the recording as well. So thank you so much, Celia, for your time today, and your insights into volunteering. I can't wait to hear lots of students getting
Cool.
involved, which is really exciting. We do have a couple of students raising their hand.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'll see if I can allow you to talk. Let me see. If you'd like to, maybe just share your question in the chat or raise your hand again and I will allow you to talk. I think that's a feature that I have to do. So we'll give you a couple of minutes. But yes, thank you, Celia.
It's okay. All good. And you're very happy for people to connect with me on LinkedIn as well. Send me a message, say you've attended, and I'm very happy
Yeah.
to point you to the right direction as well.
Good. Thank you so much. Well, I'll leave the chat on for a couple of minutes.
Hmm.
We'll turn our cameras off, but if you have any questions, please reach out. And just finally, uh, I'll just go to this slide. So this is just a webinar survey. If you have some time to complete it, it should take you about 30 seconds, and it just helps us improve on what topics and themes you want to know more about, whether it's resume writing, how to use LinkedIn, personal branding, whatever it might be, or you want to know more about volunteering. Please let us know. We do a nice little monthly draw for a movie gift card. So I'll leave that one up as well. But we'll speak to you all soon when we chat via email. And if you have any further questions or want to connect with Celia or myself, we look forward to connecting with you. And thank you again, everyone, for coming along today. I'll just leave the slide up for a while, and if you have any questions, feel free to pop them through. But thanks again, Celia, and have a
Great.
good day, everyone. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Ellen. See you all.
Bye.